Welcome, and thank you for joining us today on Mahogany Under with Cece and Dr. Yancey. Today we have Chris Belcher. Hello, Chris.
Hello, how's everyone?
We're good. How are you?
Doing
We're
wonderful.
doing well. Honored to be here on this broadcast with you.
Tell our audience about yourself.
Okay, well, first of all, my name is Chris Belcher. I'm a former radio announcer, a radio DJ, I guess you could say, out in Norfolk, Virginia, for all those people that have been to what we affectionately call the 757. Our broadcasting area consisted of from Virginia Beach up to Richmond, up to the eastern shore of Maryland, down to the eastern section of North Carolina. And it was my partner and I, rest in peace to DJ Law. We were known as the Booda Brothers in the area. And we broadcasted on 103 Jams for 20 years, starting off a mix show, then going to evenings, then afternoon drive. And then, as most people might know or might not know, the morning show is the most valuable time slot, which we spent about 10 years doing the morning show with the #1 ratings in the area. And it was a very nice experience to be able to touch so many people. And now, after radio, like I said, my partner passed. After that, I got into communications through Verizon. Did that for about 8 years. But I've always wanted to get into business for myself. So my wife and my brother-in-law and I, we started a trucking company. Got our first dump truck. And so now it's T&CHauling out here in Virginia. Independent truckers doing it for life.
T&CHauling?
T&C, Tony and Chris.
Tony and Chris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing.
That.
Appreciate you guys.
So today we're going to be talking about the Breonna Taylor case and the grand jury decision. And my first question to you is, what did you think about Breonna Taylor's grand jury decision?
Honestly, I hate to say it, I shouldn't have to say it, but I wasn't surprised when they came out with the decision not to indict or press charges on those police officers for killing her, because that's what they did. That was murder.
Yeah.
It's been one of those situations for years where, we have the movement Black Lives Matter. I was doing a little research over the past couple of weeks about the 16-9 project, especially since our president is trying to defame that as well. It's just
that patriotic education.
Right.
That's what he calls it.
That's what he's calling it. But, you have to look at the entire history of the country if you're going to be realistic about what we're experiencing today. And when you think about the Breonna Taylor case, to me, it comes down to the hypocrisy of the Second Amendment in our Constitution, and especially as it pertains to we as an African-American society in this United States of America. And so when they came out with the actual decision not to indict those officers, it was just, once again, to me, another disrespectful slap in the face from this country. Even my father was in the military, and I know you were in the military, and for all the brothers and sisters of African-American descent who fought for this country, it's like this country never fought for us. And it really hurt my heart. I'm upset about it, but I try to keep a rational mind, because you have to stay rational to come to positive conclusions and decisions.
Yeah.
So yeah, it hurt my heart.
Yeah, I kind of agree that I knew it was going to happen. And I think that when the state attorney general, the brother, made his comments, I knew right then. I
had a feeling, even when they gave the civil, the $12 million civil lawsuit or judgment on that.
It happens fast.
They were trying to soften the blow because they knew what they were doing.
Yep.
They knew how it was going to come down. And with that being said, It's one of those situations where I was watching the attorneys for Breonna Taylor's family when they were speaking, and they were going to demand that we get the transcripts from the grand jury, the video and the video, audio, and the written transcripts to see was her case even defended, even brought up to her defense, because there's so much information, even with the one neighbor who's claimed that he heard the police officers identify themselves. Well, he changed the story, because when it first happened back in March, he said no, he did not hear the police officers identify themselves. But then it's like once he was questioned and brought in by the authorities, he decided to change his statement.
Wow.
And even with that being said, for all the witnesses who said that they didn't hear the police officers identify themselves, they never even mentioned those witnesses. So
Wow.
if you have 11 to 12 witnesses that says, no, he didn't, no, they did not identify themselves. But you have this one witness that says, yeah, I heard them identify themselves, even after he had previously denied hearing it. And then you only take that one witness.
Right.
It's kind
And,
of,
and what if, just if, the police did say it, but after they entered the apartment? That's what I'm thinking.
With that being said, and even if it's a situation where they bust in the door, and now, you know, I have the right to protect my home.
Absolutely.
And, you know, from the information that the research that I've done, it was found out that a lot of the information that was given to justify the warrants, some of it was falsified. And the FBI is supposedly now going to investigate to see if were her civil rights violated based on that information. And so, you know, but in so many cases when it comes down to law enforcement, and when the law enforcement is versus somebody of the African American community, you know, they pick the facts. Yep. And they pick the evidence that they want to be able to use to defend their position. So it's not about Breonna Taylor's justice. It's all about protecting the Louisville Police Department. Hmm. And that's unfortunate.
It is.
I think you bring up, two great points, Mr. Chris.
Yes.
The money judgment. Yes, you knew it. There's no reason this specific case gets the biggest amount and reward for a justified shooting. Yeah. It was too much. It was too quick. So we did know it right at that moment when they were, you know, giving them this large amount of money, and then they were placating all these changes. So it was almost like a prejudgment. We were already about to get the ball dropped. The other point you made, which was very critical, is about the right to, you know, protect your property. So in this particular case, it just kind of didn't make sense. They said they had a no-knock warrant, but yet they're reporting that they knocked. So that contradicts itself on its face. If you have a no-knock, means you don't knock. You don't announce you're the police. And so they're trying to say that, yeah, they did announce they were police. They were the police. And that's only to rebut the justification of the gentleman's shooting. Right. They're saying that, hey, we announced we were the police. That's why they had no participants saying that they heard them announce it, because they didn't announce it because they had a no-knock warrant.
That's right. And, you know, and to build on what you just said, to the extent where, first of all, the Attorney General said that the police officers were justified in shooting into the house and ultimately killing Breonna Taylor based on the fact that her boyfriend shot in their direction, and to his testimony, not knowing what was, because they even know that Breonna's ex-boyfriend was, you know, was a hardhead. And, you know, he had every right, if he's going to be in the house with his woman, and there's a chance that her ex might come onto the property and want to cause some type of drama, he's supposed to protect himself and her and that household. And so, with that being said, because he shot at the intruders.
Yep. That's what they
they
were.
They were intruders.
Yep.
They were trying to come into their home. They're going to use that as justification for them to shoot back. Well, if they shot at him because, if they shot at her current boyfriend because he fired at them, that still does not give them justification to shoot at a non-violent, innocent third party, which was Breonna Taylor, because Breonna did not have a firearm.
Can I also interject? How did they not know that her ex-boyfriend was already in jail?
And there's another, there you go, as the plot thickens.
Right. Like, how do you not know that? Why aren't these systems communicating?
Right. But ultimately, their whole thing was to get inside that house at all costs. And I believe that's part of the false information that they used to justify the warrant in the first place.
Yeah.
And hopefully, even if it's after the election, when we can get an administration that we can trust to oversee the FBI investigation. Because I want to know what was on those transcripts from the from the actual oh man, I'm just drawing a blank. I want to know what information was presented before the Grand Council on the grand jury.
Yeah.
And talking about the grand jury, so what are some of the consequences of the lack of transparency when it comes to the police department? Because that's what we're asking for. We're asking for transparency.
Right.
If it is indeed a justified shooting, then we all should be able to come to that same conclusion, regardless of the race of the individual. The evidence should be able to show that it was just, accident, middle of the night type of thing. All the evidence should show that. So what do you think are some of the consequences of the lack of transparency in our police department?
I mean, first of all, that should bring forth a reformation to always should have that transparency, because it's never a problem for them to show video or all the information that they have to exonerate their side of the story.
Yeah.
Even if they're going to sit on their body camera footage for 6 months to a year as they're putting out everybody else's business. They always, they're always the last one to give up the goods on themselves. So with that being said, I think, one of the true forms of reformation towards the police department is from the beginning. As in any trial, you have to have full disclosure from both sides, all parties involved. So then from there, you can make an accurate judgment and assessment of what's going on.
Anything you want to add, Dr. Yancey?
Yeah, I agree. I think some of the consequences is that it continues to build this gap between community and the police department. I think the minute an accident happens, if indeed sometimes accidents do happen, transparency will help the process along.
Yeah.
Yes, we still can look for justice. Yes, we can still ask, questions. But the immediate release of video immediately after an accident and still say we're investigating, we have video, but we are investigating, goes a long way. I think that is some of the consequences, is that we just can't trust what they are saying. And it doesn't matter what black face they put up to stand at a podium. We still do not believe what you are saying.
Right. That's right. I mean, because if it was just that cut and dry, you wouldn't have a problem with putting all the information out there.
Yep.
Exactly.
If the legal system is supposed to represent the scales of justice, put everything on the scale.
Blindly.
Let's see how it weighs out. And that's why even myself personally, I have a hard time trusting anything that, any of the information that's given to us by the law enforcement, especially when they're involved.
Because we see time after time after time the same scheme, the same backdoor, the same cover up, and we knew it was coming because we've seen it before. This is nothing new. They didn't hide our eyes or cover our eyes. We saw it coming.
That's right. And and that's why it's so unfortunate now that, especially with our political discourse, that when we look at this situation, and I'm not sure if you noticed my the post that I put up a couple of days ago. I mean, the president was less than a mile from my house at a rally at the Newport News Airport. We could actually hear what was going on. And after the rally, I was just, I'm always trying to figure out what the other side is talking about. I always try, I don't want to be the person that's quote unquote caught in a bubble and not understanding what their point of view is. And so while it was going on, I went to a link just to see what they were talking about. And it's always the same rhetoric, us against them, but even more so, his whole stand for law and order is just a way to say that we need to lock these savages up for burning and destroying our cities. But that to me, that's giving, that's taking away from the pain that the African American community is feeling, because we're not just out there protesting and rioting for nothing. We don't want to be out in the street upset and mad and angry, but every time we turn around, somebody, whether it's George Floyd is getting choked out for 9 minutes in front of everybody, or there's the Breonna Taylor case. She's in bed asleep. They bust up in the house, with a no-knock warrant, but they're justified in shooting her multiple times. And the only person that got charged was the police officer that wantonly endangered a neighbor. Wantonly endangered a neighbor.
Yep.
And not to mention, okay, so that was a neighbor that was to the left. What about the neighbors upstairs? And that wasn't even the full accountability of all the wanton endangerment.
Right.
And so once again, they're picking and choosing, who and what they want to prosecute and who and what they want to defend as far as the actions and the people that were involved.
What does police reform look like to you?
From the information that I've been able to research, and just from my personal opinion, every situation does not require armed force to be used to de-escalate a situation. If it's a situation where, like the young man, I believe was in California, he had a mental issue. They called the police for assistance.
Right.
And, they shot him up. Some things can use, some situations can use, almost like social services. Yeah. Every situation does not require an armed officer.
Right.
Also, as far as reformations, okay, we have body cams, but we don't always get a chance to see the body cams.
Right.
9 times out of 10, there's always, well, we didn't have a chance to put it on, or it wasn't turned on. Right. If you're supposed to wear a body cam and it's not turned on, and we can't, pull that information in a situation where it's deemed necessary,
yeah,
you should be, that should be part of your guilt.
Yep, I agree. They have no consequences for their unaction.
Right, that should be part of your guilt. And so it's so many situations where people in the African American community, just don't get the same respect. Just like the situation, I believe it was in Wisconsin, the 17-year-old white boy, and not used as a derogatory term, but he was an adolescent. He was 17 years old. He brought an AR semi-automatic machine gun across state lines, talking about protecting some property that wasn't his, ended up shooting somebody, 2 people, and is still walking down the street wielding a gun right past police officers.
Not just shooting, he killed 2 people.
killed two people. Now imagine if he was a person of color. He wouldn't have got that far.
Right.
The first police officer he would have passed before he got down the street to have any type of altercation, it would have been an altercation with the police, apprehending him. It wouldn't have got that far. They would have never have got the opportunity to go to his house the next day to arrest him. And those are just some of the hypocritical situations that we have to go through when we have to deal with the police. Our Second Amendment, you always hear about the National Rifle Association, coming to a citizen's defense, where it's a case about somebody having the right to bear arms, but it's never to our defense as, people of color. And that's another example. So there are a lot of reformations that should be brought to the table, but ultimately those body cams, if yours is turned off, that's part of your guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be responsible for not being prepared to show video documentation of your involvement in this situation.
Mm-hmm. I know. I think that another way to reform is to let the community police itself. Let the community police itself. We're sending police or armed murderers into communities, and they can't relate to us.
Right.
And don't want to relate to us.
Don't want to. They call it, a war zone. No, it's not. It's a community.
It's a community.
It's not a war zone.
You have anything? You have anything to add, Dr. Yancey?
Yeah, I'm thinking of some police reform would include, I think it needs to focus on police. It needs to focus on what types of reforms do they just for themselves need to kind of figure out and think about, just independently the actual police. So I'm looking at consequences for your actions. For instance, there should be some consequences if that body cam is not on, meaning the body cam is connected to your job. So like if you go into mental health facilities, there's a requirement for video to be running 24 hours, 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. If an incident happens and it's not filmed, there's consequences. Somebody won't have a job the next morning.
Yep.
So there should be some type of consequence to those actions, as well as filing false police reports.
Mm.
There should be consequences, because if you're on your regular job and you file any kind of report, and if you are in the community, it's a misdemeanor to file a false police report.
Mm.
But cops do it all the time. They went back and said there was nobody hurt from this incident that happened with Breonna Taylor. Nobody hurt. There was somebody dead.
Yep.
Nobody hurt. Nobody even hurt. She was, more than hurt, just filing the police report, filing a false police report. There should be some kind of consequences. So I think that definitely should be in police reform.
And they need to take that remove that blue shield, that protection, the cover up that they shield from each other. They need to take that away. Yeah, they need to take that away.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chris.
Yes.
What do you think about, this is what bothers me, so just want to get your opinion about it.
Okay.
They come up with this $12 million for Breonna's family. And many people stood on the stage and they were happy. They were happy for this family that they can get $12 million, of course, not in lieu of their daughter, their sister, their aunt, but they were like, oh, this is a piece of a justice. But I don't look at it like that. No. I was a little bit peed off that they got $12 million. And the reason I was a little bit peed off is because the city isn't paying that $12 million. We are paying that $12 million. And so for you to go kill somebody in my family, and then I got to turn around and pay that family for it, they don't care what they do because they don't pay for it. Right. We pay for it. So we vote people in to say if anything bad happens, you pay for it. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
I think once again, I think that's part of the injustice and the disrespect, for our community, because nobody, from my perspective, no one is still being held responsible. Not even the city, because the city is not paying for it.
That's right.
I mean, like,
It's another slap in the face.
that's what I'm saying. Another form of disrespect. And you know, when they came with that settlement, like I said before, I felt like that was the setup for the bad news that was coming. But even more so than that, what are you trying to, you trying to buy our silence? You know, you're trying to buy the families, you're trying to pay for the family's grief with money from taxpayers.
That's right.
And so it's one of those situations where, once again, you know, there's, and somebody had commented on the post that I put up. You know, I was reading the post from the rally the other night, and one of the Trump supporters was just putting out all this information, you know, as like the Democrats are burning down the cities. And I'm like, I believe you're missing the picture. People are protesting an injustice that continues to go on. Right now, every month is something, and people out there protesting an injustice.
Yeah.
You know, what's the old saying? No justice, no peace.
Yeah.
No justice, no peace. And so, if it wasn't a reason to protest, the cities wouldn't be going through this right now. You know, all summer. You know, even when we think about the whole COVID-19 situation, the year 2020 has been a strain on everyone.
Yep.
And then to have to be out there and feel like you need to protest these social injustices and even put yourself in harm's way just for the spreading of this COVID-19. And you know, it's just like, you know, the president right now is just putting gas to a fire to try to get people's votes on his side. Yeah, we us against them. And when in actuality, we need to come back together as one society, if at all possible.
One nation.
One nation.
What keeps you up at night, Chris?
My wife in the background said her. No, but what really bothers me right now, the fear of civil war.
Oh, wow.
Think about it. There's so much discourse and anger. You know, so much us against them. The call to arms. If only way I can lose is if we cheat, and we're not going to stand for it. I'm not going to sit here and say, now, the first president, I cannot sit here and commit to a peaceful transfer of power.
Yes, I could not believe he said that. He said that out his mouth.
And when you think about over the past 3-4 years now, you know, armed gunmen shooting up neighborhoods and churches and synagogues is nothing new. But right now, as we're coming closer and closer to this election, now I just want to say this for anybody that gets a chance to see this video later on. The president is running around trying to discredit the mail-in ballots. And the main reason we're having so many people nowadays for this election to even consider mailing in their ballot is based on the COVID-19 crisis. And so my wife and I, you know, we applied for the mail-in ballot. And last Friday, they started early elections, early polling, early voting here in Virginia.
Yeah.
And so not understanding how the process worked. Friday, my wife and I got off work and we went down to City Hall. We want to go ahead and cast our vote. We want to we want to make sure our vote is counted. But when they pulled up my driver's license and my wife's driver's license, it says here that you've requested a mail-in ballot. Yeah, and I can dig it. So
did you?
We did.
Okay.
We have them here now. They just hadn't come in yet.
Okay.
When we went down Friday, we hadn't received them yet. And so what they told us was, you've already applied for a mail-in ballot. When your ballot comes in, if you still want to vote in person, just bring the unopened ballots back to the registrar's office. You can turn that one in and cast your vote here.
Okay.
So, and the reason I'm saying that is because the president is trying to get the masses, or at least his followers, to believe that you can vote 3-4 times. You can vote multiple times by mail, in person, and all this, which is not possible, because once you give them your driver's license and they put the information into the computer, if you registered for a mail-in ballot, they're going to see that. And that's what you're going to have to use to vote.
Okay.
Now, we do have the option. We can still fill out our ballots and mail them in, drop them into a post office. But, I got to say, I don't trust it now. I'm leery of the mail system, not because, for all the years that states have been using the mail-in option, that has ever been a problem. I'm just worried about right now, the president's already put his man over the post office system to try to fix it, to slow down the mail.
And it is slowing down.
It's slowing down. And then that's what took us so long for us to get our ballots through the mail. And so what that means,
if you want to vote by mail, vote early. Vote early.
Early. And that's my whole point. So we have our ballots. We can mail them in. We can mail them in, and they should get there on time.
They should.
Because I have time to do so, I'm gonna feel more comfortable. My wife and I going down to the city hall and doing it in person. So I know for a fact that my vote is going to be counted.
Yep.
Because, how you going to take out sorting machines now? First of all, who has the authority to mandate that the mail-in ballot is going to be degraded from first-class priority mail to just bulk mail? Who does that? The president's guy that he puts in to mess up the mail system.
He makes policy.
He made the policy to downgrade the classification of a mail-in ballot from first-class mail to just regular old bulk mail. If a first-class mail, if the ballot is sent for whatever reason and it doesn't receive the post office, they send it back. And they resend it to make sure that it gets to where it needs to go. But with bulk mail, if it doesn't go through the first time, they just throw it away. It could just be junk mail. It could be
didn't know that.
Yes, that was part of what they did to make it more difficult for the mail to get through for mailed-in ballots.
But the Postmaster DeJoy, he did proclaim when he testified in front of Congress, is that all mail-in ballots are supposed to be first class. Now, he did guarantee that, but that's yet to
that's just word of mouth. That's him saying that. But
Sure.
the policy with the memorandum had already been put in that it's not first class.
Oh, he already put in a memorandum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that it is supposed to be, all mail is supposed to be first class. It's supposed to be for all voter registrations are supposed to be first class mail.
Right. When they went before Congress and they called DeJoy, Postmaster DeJoy, in there to testify, you could tell by his testimony that he was not trying to be forthcoming with the information.
Was it? He looked like he was holding back.
He was holding back. He was trying to cover up.
He was elusive at many times.
Wow.
Right. And once again, just trying to discredit the election, because Trump. Trump. He's a crook. It's been documented for years. You think about all the Republicans before Trump got the nomination, they were telling the truth about him. I have a hard time looking Lindsey Graham in the face on TV. He called Trump for what he was. But now he's an honorable man. He leads the Republican Party, and he's still in these Supreme Court seats. Even with the whole situation with the, rest in peace to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. For a woman that did so much to fight for the equality of women in the United States. She's not even in the ground yet. And he's already putting somebody in there to pretty much reverse everything that she fought for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a blatant hypocrisy that they took Barack Obama's nomination, and he was going to nominate, being an honorable man, he was going to nominate Merrick Garland, who was technically a middle of the road Republican. They took his vote from him. Yep. Because it was the last year of his presidency.
Yep. And so the same should be applied to.
The same should be, but they always have a justification for all their BS.
Oh, yeah. They play dirty and then they justify it.
Anyway, yeah, but those are things like that. And I just can't wait till we get to the day when we can abolish the Electoral College.
Yes.
When each state has an election, they count the votes, and then the president of the state's electoral board, a lot of times it's the governor, but sometimes in extreme situations throughout history, either the Senate or the Senate through the Congress or the governor, depending on which one has the most power in the state, will vote against the will of the people. So like say Virginia is normally a blue state. And we have our governor is a Democrat. But if the Senate is run by Republicans, and now the president wants to say that Virginia's votes were fraudulent, they can go to the Electoral College and they can dispute the people's votes. They can decide who they want to give our electoral votes to as they count up to the electoral number that needs to be for the president to be elected, I guess would be the term, but I don't trust any of them right now. That's why it's unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate. The Democrats have to win. Joe Biden has to win by a landslide.
Yep. And don't listen to the polls. The polls, I think, only throws you off.
Right.
Vote, vote, vote.
Vote.
Must vote.
Dr. Yancey, do you have anything? We're about to wind it up. Do you have anything to add?
Just totally in agreement. We can't listen to the pundits. We can't listen to whatever news broadcaster we listen to, or radio broadcaster. As the young folks say, stay woke and gotta vote.
And so, audience, we're going to wind it up for now. Next week, we're going to have Black economics. And I'm going to have this young lady come on because Black economics, to me, is a new concept. And so I want to get the word out and get what it means out so that we can all be on the same page when we say Black economics and actually do it.
Awesome.
Until next time, be the change that you desire. Thank you.
Thank you.